You're alright, no worries, dude.
Hey everybody, I'm Bill. This is Zap. Hello, Zap.
Hello, everyone. How are you, Bill?
I'm doing good. Today is September 28th. This is episode 47 of Run, Jump, Stomp. This week, we are going to be talking about A Kingdom Has Crumbled.
Emulate no more.
Disappointed with Bioshock.
Destiny 2 coming to the PC.
You can be a hero and get paid for it.
Esports teams acquired.
And Zap is going to tell us about EGX. So stick around. We'll be right back. All right, guys. So this week, Zap went to EGX. And so we're not going to have a long play segment this week. So, Zap, why don't you go ahead and we'll start with EGX, and then we'll get through as many stories as we can after that, because I don't know how much you have to talk about.
Yeah, EGX. For anybody who doesn't know, EGX is the UK's biggest gaming expo. So it's the European Gamers Expo, held in Birmingham at the NEC, and it's a really, really cool event. I obviously travelled up the Sunday morning and checked out as many games as I possibly could. I centered around one main game, which was Dawn of War. And I'm going to talk about that last. There's two games overall that caught my attention more than Dawn of War, and I wasn't really expecting anything else really to catch my attention. And something else really made me stand back and smile. I went with my friend and I went with my dad, and my dad has never seen that part of the gaming world. And this really made me smile because he saw what esports was like, and he saw how big this esport thing is.
Now, is he like a big sports fan?
Dad follows. My old man follows some sports. He follows football or soccer. And he follows our local team and stuff like that. So, and that was what he was comparing it to, obviously. He was comparing it to crowds in the Premier League or the Championship would kill for 35,000 fans week in, week out. And I mean, I was explaining to Dad about how Twitch works and that there was 30,000 people watching the CSGO Gfinite International competition, plus another 2,000 people there at EGX. So we're talking 32,000 people watching this esport, and it really did. It really sort of shocked him to see what was going on. And as he said, gaming used to be something that you used to hide away in your bedroom and play on your own, and now it's turning into a real sport event. And me, who's been part of this whole gaming scene, has seen esports kind of grow, and that was really nice. Onto the games. I saw clips of Dishonored 2. Dishonored 2 looks amazing.
That is on my list. I want it.
I'm going to play through the first one again. I didn't give the first one enough credit, so I need to play through the first one again. And Dishonored 2, from what I saw, looks incredible. They've got something good going there. I caught passing of the Call of Duty and all that sort of stuff. Wasn't really interested in, because I know with Call of Duty and Battlefield, Gears of War, those kind of games, you kind of know what you're already getting involved in. There's been 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games before, so you know exactly what is out there. So you don't need to. I don't want to queue for hours on end to play what would be 30 minutes of gameplay when I know exactly what I'm getting involved in. Mm-hmm. I mean, those queues were massive. Anyway, when we arrived, it weren't too bad, it weren't too busy, but the queues for the big titles, the big AAA titles, they were massive. I saw some of FIFA 17, and as everyone saw at the beginning of the stream, I have purchased my copy of FIFA 17, so that's FIFA. We've talked about it on the podcast before. And then Indie. Now this is where my real kind of the real showstoppers came out. Two games. One game, you both might enjoy both games. run jump. But one game definitely is on. It should be on your radar. It's called Brutal. It's on the PS4 currently, and it's coming to the PC next February. I have an official launch date. It's February the 17th, and I'm hoping to get along with the developers and be part of their whole like build up and their ramp up. Brutal is their take on how do you put it? ASC dungeons.
ASCII?
ASCII dungeons, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
All right, so ASCII is like it's like a computer character, or like computer characters, like, you know, XRE or whatever, to make up a picture. And oh, you just linked me to it. Okay.
Yeah, I put it in the chat so everyone can see. This is it's their take. It's a modern reimagining classic of the classic ASCII dungeon crawlers.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so like a roguelike.
Exactly like a roguelike. Now, when I hit this game, I was not in the best. I hadn't had enough caffeine, and the neon lights, man, they were bright. The contrast on the game on the screens were all over the place.
Just so you know, if you're listening to the show, you should definitely check it out on YouTube or on Twitch, because right now we're seeing a really unique art style.
It's beautiful, and I did go back and I had another look, and then got in touch with the developers. This game is going to be so much fun. Like I say, it's only on PS4. I did try and snag a code for the PS4, but apparently Sony published it, which scares me after No Man's Sky. But this is definitely something that's going to be worth looking at. Looks in-depth combat, a lot of fun. It's a permadeath dungeon crawler sort of thing, so I did think that was well up your street on that one.
Yeah, I love that.
The second game from an independent studio is a small independent studio called Team 17, which happens to be Worms WMD. Yeah, them who literally I hadn't heard from in years were there at EGX, and they had Worms WMD on display. That was amazing. It was really, really good fun. It is actually released on Steam, and it's so much fun. Like they've recaptured all that old Worms stuff. A lot of character in. It's one of those games, how do you put it, that has all that polish, that character. The Worms have their own kind of feel to them, and the soundboard is incredible. So that's another game that really caught my attention. There were a few more that by the time I come round to try and get to them, either queues were massive or it was getting quite late in the day, because the third game that really got me was Dawn of War 3. This is one of the biggest reasons I went to sit down for 40 minutes and play Dawn of War. I got nowhere in the mission they gave me. I had to restart like twice. I died.
That's too hard for you?
It was incredibly hard, which is good. I like a good challenge. The story seems incredible. It looks beautiful, and you get to control titans and all sorts. So, and the lore as well is there. So, and in this mission you play as Space Marines. Well, the Blood Raven chapter of the Space Marines, I should say. And you fight the Eldar, and you have to try and close the Eldar webway portals, stop them coming through. It's good. It's very good. It's well on my radar. It was on my wish list a few weeks back. As you can see in the trailer, for people who are watching live, the Titan's there that's being crushed. That's what you got control. And the great thing about the Dawn of War series, which they've got right, is in the lore of Space Marines, or the Warhammer universe. These Space Marines are like genetically engineered humans, and they're supposed to move with kind of like a very heavy movement. And if you tell them your Space Marine squad to move from, say, one space to another space, they don't just run there. They're not. They take their time, and they do move at kind of that pace where you think that it's going to take them to get to that. So, yeah, and if anybody's played the second game, they've or the first, they've kind of molded them together and brought back base building as well as controlling squads and things like that. So out of EGX, my top 3 picks are Dawn of War 3, Worms WMD, and Brutal. All 3 are well worth time, money, and time to spend with them. So yeah, that's how I feel.
That's awesome. I've never been able to go to a gaming convention. Before I was a teacher, I just didn't, I was, working at, Kmart or wherever, just making just barely enough to pay my rent. So I couldn't afford to go. And now that I'm a teacher, I could probably afford to go, but they always happen when I have work. They always tend to happen in the fall or in the spring. They never happen in the summer, probably because they don't want to have that many stinky people all around on a hot day. I mean, I could go to Dragon Con, I guess, but that's like right at the end of August. And at the end of August, I'm ramping up for the school year, so I never get to go to that stuff. I'm very jealous that you got to go to that, and it sounds like it was a lot of fun. That's really cool. So thanks for telling us about that.
No problem. I did try and get people to speak into my. I actually have ordered an attachment for my iPhone. See, look, getting into the iPhone thing, and it's a microphone head. It's not here because it was supposed to be here the Friday, and it's turning up tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Well,
cheers, Amazon.
I don't know, Amazon. My wife swears that I have like special Amazon powers because she'll order something. It'll come, like 4 days later or something. I'll order something. Well,
next day.
She'll order something. She'll get it in like 3 days. I order it and it shows up the next day. And I'm like, I don't even know how they do that. It's like they know. Because another reason that it might be is because they've been watching my account and they know that I've been looking at this thing over and over and over for like a month. So they probably got a delivery guy in the garage next door to my house just waiting for me to hit the button, and then he's just going to run over and deliver it. So anyway, but by the way, Kodiak Moonwolf says only on PS4. I think all of the games that you mentioned are PC games as well, right?
I think he was talking about Brutal. Brutal is PC bound. I've had confirmation from the developers, Rising Star Games, and I'm hoping this is going to be. I'm going to announce this here now, and I should be coming with codes for myself and you.
Yeah.
So we can stream it live for those guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
I put our names forward, put your name forward. I did put Bog's names forward as well, just because of that's Bog.
Yeah.
But put your name forward, my name forward, so we can stream it live. Come early part next year. We should be getting on the ramp of that, so it is coming to PC. They're just having some technical issues apparently. Also, they're having some issues with other bits and pieces, but it didn't come into too much. But it's coming.
Awesome.
Awesome. Worms again is PC bound. Dawn of War is exclusively to PC.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into the headlines.
Now your tomorrow morning's headlines tonight.
Yes.
And what makes it really marvelous.
And the first headline today is A Kingdom Has Crumbled. Now, I'm just curious how familiar you are with this IP, Kingdoms of Amalur.
I love this game.
All right, so you played the original Kingdoms of Amalur, right?
Yeah, I put about 30, 35, 40 hours into it back on the PlayStation 3.
All right, so the reason that they made this game, the one that you played, was to help them raise money because they were working on an MMO for this universe. And Kurt Schilling, who I guess used to be a baseball player, he used his money to try and fund his game. And so this is 38 Studios is the company that he founded, and they were working on Kingdoms of Amalur, and they got basically they got a loan from, this is really weird. They got a loan from the Rhode Island Economic Development Corporation, and now it's called Commerce Corps. But basically, they got a loan from the state to work on this game, and in 2012 they failed to make their repayments, so they couldn't pay it back because they laid off their entire workforce. They declared bankruptcy. This started them on the road to court proceedings. And what actually happened is that they ended up leaving this $75 million loan that came from the state of Rhode Island, and they left the taxpayers holding the bag because they burned through all the money that they made, or not that they made, they burned through all the money that they had borrowed, and they couldn't get the game out on time. So the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, they ended up charging the Rhode Island Commerce Commission, as well as Wells Fargo's, which is another bank that worked on this, with defrauding investors earlier this year. And then 38 Studios was cleared of criminal charges, but they had a 4-year investigation that went on about these guys. Now, the reason that I talk about it is because it was finally settled, and they did not they didn't find any criminal proceeding or criminal charges against them. That they've been, so they won't go to jail or anything like that. But Kurt Schilling, the founder of 38 Studios, has agreed to pay a $2.5 million settlement because of Kingdoms of Amalur. And I just thought that this story has been going on for so long, and it is a very interesting story. I don't know all the legal stuff behind it. I'm not, that's not my wheelhouse, but I find it incredibly interesting how this video game company ended up getting bankrolled by the state of Rhode Island and then used all the money and went out of business because they just couldn't make their game happen. What do you think about this story?
It's a real sad story about a really good game. I don't know why it crashed and burned so hard. I think it only sold 1.3 million copies or dollars or so. I think they had their target was something ridiculous, and it sold like a third of it. Don't quote me on numbers because I can't quite. I caught a little bit of this story here, there, and everywhere. But again, I think it's just a real sad state of it. I mean, Kingdom of Amalur itself had some real high-end people working on it. You had Todd McFarlane, who was his notable works are The Amazing Spider-Man, and he did some
Spawn.
stuff for DC. Spawn, yeah, so he did a lot. A really, really smart artist on there. So they had some notable names. I don't really kind of understand where it all went wrong for him, because if I do remember correctly, Kingdoms of Amalur might have come out when at the same time another RPG came out, and it might have been overshadowed by that, because that's normally what happens when a game comes out. It was released in February 2012, so if there was a game at the same time coming out that was bigger and had more publicity, then sometimes that can affect obviously the game's sales. But this whole mess of the money over the tax, the $75 million loan, and it's just a mess, and it's a real shame for a game that has so much promise to end in pretty much so much turmoil. It's really sad.
Yeah, and so just to be clear, Kingdoms of Amalur came out, was a successful game, but they still didn't have enough money to keep their development going to get their MMO out. So they were making basically I'm gonna say a Warcraft clone, but I doubt it was really a Warcraft clone. But they were making an MMO in this universe. So the second game, the MMO, never actually came out, just the original one. And so it's rough. This guy lost $2.5 million, and I really don't. I've listened to interviews with this guy. I don't believe for a second that they were defrauding anybody. I think that they were honestly trying as hard as they can to get their game out. And I can't say that I blame anybody, because other than maybe the Rhode Island Development Corps, our Economic Development Corps, mostly because sometimes when you're making a program, and that's essentially what a game is, it's a program, you are going to run into problems that are going to slow down development time. And I don't know why the Rhode Island Economic Development Corps was loaning numbers that large to one company to make one game. It seems like an excessive amount, almost like back during the U.S. housing crisis when people were just getting home loans without any kind of check at all. You know, you could constantly get a home loan with no problem at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's a real sad state of affairs.
It is. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to your first story, which is Emulate No More. What's going on there?
Emulate No More. Well, last week I was going to talk about, there was a story that peaked on my radar that Xbox had approved a emulator for the N64, or an M64 emulator. So you could play the classic games, Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, GoldenEye, all these sort of games, and it was costing in space points or British pounds about £7.69, so probably just over $10 for you guys. So really cheap. And the biggest problem with emulation is it's full of piracy. There's websites out there where you can download, multiple files. I don't condone any of this. Emulation is a very grey area in the world of gaming because, I'll get onto that in a minute. But the actual story is that Microsoft now have removed this emulator from their stores. So I guess the people who have downloaded it can still play it, but the ones who now want to download it, well, it's gone. So, Microsoft first approved this emulator because with the consoles, they have to go through an approved system, and if the app is approvable, it gets put onto the Xbox store, and then obviously it's watched and monitored, and if it breaches any violations of their fair usage, and this did violated policy, which is why it was removed. I think more the fact that Nintendo has been known to shut down multiple different things in the past because of copyright claims and all that sort of stuff, which is fair enough on their part. I'm not. This is not a bash at Nintendo for going, you can't do that, because at the end of the day, that's their IP. They can do it. And again, this is that thing. If Nintendo if it had gone on long enough, could Nintendo turn around and sue Microsoft for allowing it onto their network and things like that? But emulation itself is a very strange and grey area because technically, while it's illegal to emulate a game, you can have a backup copy stored on your hard drive if you own the original, and have proof of ownership of the original. But with emulators, like I say, there's websites out there which you can download them and can store them onto your hard drive and play these games. But
I've heard of such things.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to say I'm not condoning that for one. Never emulate unless you own the game. But my main point is this, one of my things is I wish that a company like Nintendo, because you have the power out there now on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. Nintendo back in the day had some of the most amazing games. The N64 was one of my favourite consoles. I did have an N64, believe it or not, before the PlayStation. We had that before a PlayStation. And I adored GoldenEye, Mario 64, and Mario Kart. They were like my three, as growing up as a child, they were like my three favourite games. And I'd love to see Nintendo endorse, and I don't think they ever will because it's their kind, it's just not something to do. A company to make an emulator, you've got one made, endorse it. Nintendo get the rights, provide, say how much it's got to be sold for, and allow people to buy versions of these games and play them.
Well,
again,
they have that. It's called the eShop.
Is that available on all platforms?
No, it's available on Nintendo platforms.
That's what I mean. That when I say that, and like I say, I don't think Nintendo would ever do this because it's kind of not them. Is allow it on, like you've got the other week we talked about PlayStation Now is now on the PC, so you can now play PlayStation games on the PC while it's streaming the games. Allow people to have a have a way of people being able to play these games on other platforms. But then it's a whole different story of other platforms talking to other platforms and stuff. That's what I personally would love to see, but I know deep down it would never happen. But this story, this brought to my attention because I'm quite glad Microsoft did remove the emulator before it got messy, because stuff like that is going to get messy. It's going to get really, really nasty pretty quickly if one company says, oh, this is fine. And then, another company's like, well, hang on a minute, you're basically allowing people to pirate our games on your system. So again, it could have turned into a complete sour mess.
Yeah. The way I look at it, well, there's a couple things. First off, it got onto the Xbox to begin with, probably not because somebody there said, oh, yeah, this seems like a great idea. It probably just seemed like somebody not really doing a great job and approving something without really looking into it too much. And then once somebody caught it and said, whoa, we're not supposed to do that, let's shut that down now, they shut it down. And honestly, first off, I'm surprised that Microsoft has not reached out into the Xboxes that it's been downloaded on and deleted it. That surprises me, because I know that they have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
It would open up kind of some problems for them if they did. Problems like people would get upset, there would be bad PR. I know that that's probably why they didn't do it. But that genie is out of the bottle already, and they could have put it back in if they wanted. I guess they decided not to, probably to avoid the PR nightmare. As far as emulation goes, you say, you're against emulation unless you own the copy. I'm almost the same way. I think if there is a way for me to legally buy the game someplace, and I'm not talking at some secondhand shop where I got to go searching through 300 cartridges to find the one that I want, if there's a way where I can just give Nintendo my money, or Sega, or whoever it is that I want to emulate, to just give them the money, and it's a reasonable price. I'm not talking $60 for a game that came out in 1985. All right. Then if I can give them a reasonable amount of money or a reasonable thing, then I think, yeah, go ahead, pay them, But if they don't put it available for me to download in a legal way, then I think all bets are off. They're not allowing me to give them money. I'm going to download it. I mean, I don't really play older games anymore. But back in the day, I used to emulate games, and I would emulate games that I couldn't get otherwise. Especially if I wanted to play a game that was really, really old, and it's just not available anywhere. Now, today, things are a little bit different. The Nintendo has the eShop, and here's the reason why what you want to happen is never going to happen as long as Nintendo makes hardware. Unlike Microsoft and Sony, Nintendo, with one exception, the Wii U is the only exception to this rule. They have never sold hardware, to my knowledge, and this is just off the top of my head because I didn't read the story ahead of time. They've never sold hardware, to my knowledge, at a loss. They always make a profit on their hardware. Whereas Microsoft and Sony, when they sell their hardware, they are losing money that they plan on making back by selling first-party games. Nintendo always makes money on their hardware, with the exception of the Wii U, and that's probably because the screen was too expensive to try and get that price down. As long the one thing that Nintendo has going for them is that their software is what sells their hardware. I don't go out and buy a video game system from Nintendo for the latest Call of Duty game. That is not what I'm buying their system for. I'm buying it for the latest Nintendo games, the games that you can only get on Nintendo systems. And therefore, if you are infringing on their stuff, they absolutely need to crack down on that as fast as possible, because that means that somebody might not buy a system from them, and that's money that they're not going to get. Now, what could Nintendo do to fix this? We look at Xbox. I'm going to tell you what Nintendo could do to really kill it and when they release the NX, and they're probably not going to do this because they won't listen to me. Nintendo, listen to me. Xbox has a subscription system, Xbox Live. PlayStation has PS Plus, a subscription system. Nintendo does not make that much money on their eShop games. They might make some, definitely, but they don't make a whole lot, I don't think. So what they need to do is they need to take every first-party game that they have from the NES, the Super NES, probably the Nintendo 64, the GameCube and the Wii and the Wii U are probably too powerful of machines to really be emulated in a good way on a console, I think, probably. But we'll see. So take the NES, the Super NES, and the Nintendo 64. Take those three systems, put every first-party game out on your system for free as long as you pay a subscription to Nintendo. And then I guarantee you will see nostalgic morons like me running to the store to buy an NX so that I can play Super Mario 3D World, or not 3D World, Super Mario 64 on the go, and then close that game and open up a Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. That they would upend the market, I think. A lot of people would pay for that, and they wouldn't just pay the $50 a year that it is for Microsoft or Sony's. I bet you they could probably get about $75 a year out of people for that if they have all that huge backlist of that back catalog. And that's what Nintendo, right now, Nintendo is riding this wave of this fantastic back catalog of games. People play Nintendo systems because they are nostalgic and they love Nintendo games. And if you give them a way to play those games legally and easily and on a portable system, you are going to see NX systems, or whatever they end up calling it, flying off the shelves, and they're going to be right back to where they were with the Wii. When the Wii first came out, it was nearly impossible to get a Wii. My wife and I went and stood outside of a Best Buy in November. It was incredibly cold out, and we stood there all night with a huge line of people to get a Wii so that we could give it to the kids on Christmas. And you will see that with the NX if they do something like this. They won't listen to me because Nintendo they're gonna look at an idea like that and they'll say, well, that's not very friendly to consumers. We want to trickle out the things that people want to play slowly over time, and we want people, and then they're going to do what's completely turn around and do something completely anti-consumer and charge me for games that I've already bought on the eShop again, because this is one thing that Nintendo does, and it really ticks me off. You know, I bought Super Mario, from the NES, right? I bought it on the NES, and then when the Super Nintendo came out, I bought Super Mario All-Stars, which came with the first one. And then I didn't buy it again on the Nintendo 64 or the GameCube. But then on the Wii, they had the eShop, so I bought it again there. I also bought it on the Wii U because it's $2. What's the big deal? I don't mind paying it again. But you know what? Damn it, Nintendo. If I've paid for your game, just add the game to my account. Let me own it. All right?
Yeah, just to in my point, I'm not against emulation. I, like you, have emulated games, but for me, I completely agree with your point. It's having a fairer way of people playing those nostalgic games. And what you said, if there was a subscription service, you're right. I think it would sell buck tons of NXs. And again, we talked about it loads of times on the podcast already. Nintendo needs something. That they need that something to bring it in line with the other two consoles, as in the console in the house. I'm not talking about power or anything else. I'm talking about that console, because a lot of households have just one console. They'll choose their console. They'll stick with that for generation after generation. I've stuck with for a lot of previous generations of the PlayStation. I've dabbled in Xbox. I've dabbled in Nintendo, but I've always gone back to Sony. And for me to take out get rid of my PlayStation, there's got to be a big enough reason for me to go, well, I don't want that. I'm going to Nintendo NX because I can now play, some of the games that I played, years back.
Or some of the games you missed.
Yeah, I mean, some of my fondest memories of GoldenEye, for instance, 4 people around, 4-player split screen. I don't think anybody remembers what 4-player split screen looks like.
Right.
And you're all taking each other out, golden gun, mode, and all of this. Some of the best times I've ever had was in front of that, and I just would love to see them do something exactly as you explained. Bring a subscription service out, monthly payment, yearly payment, however they want to do it. You pay this monthly, yearly, and here you go. You can have the back catalogue available to you as soon as your subscription ends. That's it. That you can't play it anymore.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're gone. But as soon as you renew it or you pay for it, you've got access. Just download it, upload it as you need. If the games can work on a 3DS, then make it portable as well. They could really do something with their back catalogue, because you are right. Nostalgia will rule anything. And as you were talking, I was sitting there thinking, what back catalogue games of the PlayStation would I want to play? Eskimo Princess mentions Crash Bandicoot in chat. They're remaking it. It comes out in like a couple of months.
Oh.
They're remastering the Crash Bandicoot series. But a remaster will never hold that sentimental nostalgia feel of, especially Crash Bandicoot when you got the blocks as its graphics. But that gameplay, it will be shiny, polished, and there's always something really good about playing these old games. So Nintendo, if you're listening, listen to Bill. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, GoldenEye is not made by Nintendo, so even if they did what I said, they would only be able to do it for games that they developed and published, because they don't own the rights to those other games. So
that was Rare, wasn't it?
I don't know who made that off the top of my head, but Rare used to be owned by Nintendo, but they got sold. They got sold, and then Microsoft bought them. So you'll never see GoldenEye on a Nintendo platform again.
The developers was Rare, publisher was Nintendo. I had to look that up because it bugged me for the rest of the day.
Yeah, well, okay, so maybe, I don't know if it's the developer who owns the rights or the publisher that owns the rights, so I'm not sure, but one way or the other, there's going to be there would be holes in the catalog, like Contra. Contra is a game, and this is a weird thing about Nintendo, especially old Nintendo games. People don't realize that Nintendo didn't make all of these games. So they look at things like Contra and they're like, "Oh, Contra! I want to play Contra. That was on my Nintendo. Nintendo made Contra, but Nintendo didn't make Contra. All right, Capcom made Contra. So there's a lot of games that we would not get from that subscription service. The games that you would get would be the Nintendo ones, which were awesome. And maybe if Nintendo could work out deals with other partners to say, hey, you're not selling Contra anywhere. Why don't you do this and we'll give you a cut of what you would make. I think it would be really good for Nintendo. But we've talked enough about Nintendo, so let's talk about the next story, which is Pro Heroes of the Storm to adopt a formalized online league system. So, Heroes of the Storm. Okay, first off, I want to start out, before I get really into the story, that I'm not good enough to play esport games. Secondly, I don't like the word sport in it, because it's not a sport. I like competitive, call it competitive gaming if you want. That's fine. I don't care if somebody puts it on ESPN, before anybody asks that either. So many people were up in arms about that, but that's beside the point. Now, I always kind of ignored esports, mostly because they were playing games I don't care about, like StarCraft. I can't play StarCraft. I suck at StarCraft. I'm not going to play StarCraft because it's going to be terrible for me. Shooters like Call of Duty and stuff like that, I can't play those games either. All right. Now, Heroes of the Storm, that's a MOBA, and it's a really good game. And I ignored esports until I watched the Heroes of the Dorm, which is Blizzard had this thing where the players would win free college tuition for the rest of their college, right? Which is awesome. and I watched it because I was just kind of interested and I liked the game. And it blew me away how awesome it was to watch. It was incredibly fun to watch, especially because they did a great job picking the people who did the commentation on it. All right, they didn't go over the top. They explained things in detail, things that like even a player of the game, I didn't really understand until I watched that. Oh, okay, so this is why you would rotate down to the bottom lane in this case. And that makes sense. Because the casters were explaining, okay, now at this point they should be doing this, and oh, yep, they're doing exactly the right thing, and they're moving now. This guy's going to go over here, and great, that they're going to win because of that. And that made it really fun to watch. So I've kind of had my eyes turned around about watching esports. I think that they're really fun, and I think that it's something that people can do. A lot of people kind of frown upon it. They're like, oh, esports, you're watching somebody play a game. And I'm like, hey, man, you're watching football. You're watching somebody play a game. You're not doing anything. All right? So, anyway, I'm watching esports, and Heroes of the Storm is the game that I like to watch. That and Smite. I like to watch MOBAs, I guess. I don't really care about League of Legends or whatever the other one is. I can't remember right now.
Dota.
Yeah, Dota. But I like watching Heroes of the Storm, and I like watching Smite. Those are two really fun things to watch. Now, what's going on here with Heroes of the Storm is that they're going to have a formalized online league system, and the top players in each region are going to be paid by the league for being the best, like a salary. So I think that is really cool. I don't know if this is something that happens in other games where if you're the top StarCraft player, you have a salary, or do you just go from win to win, hoping that you win to make enough money to, like, the idea that somebody could play a game and even if they lose, still collect their salary because they're doing their job to the best of their ability, and maybe, just one thing messed up, they don't have to, move out of their apartment. I think that's really cool. So, what do you think about Pro Heroes of the Storm news?
It's about time. Poor old Heroes of the Storm.
Okay, I'll take care of it in a second. Just stay out of your room. I'll take care of it in a second. Go ahead.
Me personally, I'm a massive fan of competitive gaming esports, and watched the Guild Wars 2 finals the other week. Most exciting thing I've seen on Twitch for a long time. It really is. And once you get engrossed into it, it's like watching any sports game. If you're a football fan, soccer, American football fan, and you get that kind of excitement of your team or the people that you support going for the win, or in esports going for the kill. That's all, and you can get engrossed into it. And as I said about EGX, my dad, he got engrossed into the CS:GO stuff, which was awesome to see. But the Heroes of the Storm stuff, they've been a bit behind with how their payment stuff works. And you were saying that basically as far as my understanding, in League of Legends, there's like 3 tiers of leagues, and the top tier, if you like, they all get paid, and they all get a salary, and then they get sponsorship deals on top. Some of these guys are on ridiculous amounts of money, especially in the League of Legends world. It's bonkers the amount they're actually being paid for doing what they enjoy. But there is a flip side to it. They're doing like 9-10 hours a day in front of a computer, and then they do like an hour afterwards of just watching the games they played that game and talking about it with their team manager. These team managers are earning a lot of money as well, and they're young, and it's quite scary how much they're bringing in. But Heroes of the Storm hasn't really done that. They haven't really followed the traditional League of Legends kind of online league systems where the pros will get the most money and all this sort of stuff, and everyone below them will work way up to through the ranks. And that's the aim. You're in tier 3, for instance, and you want to be in tier 1 to get the money. I think League of Legends is big enough that the money kind of spans down the leagues, depending on the teams that you're with. So I'm hoping to see it grow. Heroes of the Storm is one of my favourite MOBAs because it simplified a lot of the things that make a MOBA a MOBA. It takes out all the shop stuff and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a very good MOBA. So on the point, seriously, well done to Blizzard for finally going, hang on a minute, we need to kind of catch up with this and give our top teams a chance to earn some money. The only downside, and this is the real, if you lose too many games and they start seeing that you're the weakness, they'll kick you off the team instantly. There's no contracts or anything. It's not safe work. You could be riding the waves of money coming in, and the next week you could be off the team, looking for a new team, and it's very, very hard to stay right at the top.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that they absolutely need to do in order to more legitimize esports is, first off, they need contracts for the players so the players can't be screwed, and that's not going to come from they need to unionize, basically. That's not going to come from the people who are paying, because they only stand to lose with that. Second thing that they have to do is, I have no idea why Zap just disappeared. All right, well we lost him, but we'll be back in a minute. I don't have any clue which team's which. I don't have a favorite team, but there needs to be like a schedule. Like, I can look and see ahead of time the schedule for Monday Night Football, when that's going to be played and how I can watch it. Right now, there is no schedule for that. So I can't find that stuff out. It needs to be something where, okay, well, we're all going to sit down and we're going to take a look at this, and or we're all going to sit down and we're going to watch this together because it's Tuesday night. And that's what I think that has to happen for esports in order for them to catch on in the mainstream. Do I care if they catch on in the mainstream? No, because stuff is happening that I like. So that makes me happy. Now, we lost Zap, and my son needs my help with something, so we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to call him back afterwards. So if he comes back, let him know that that's what's going on. We will be right back, and I'll cut this out later. Okay, guys? Stick around. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. We had... My son had, he had a mirror on his door, and it fell and broke, so I had to go clean that up. And Zap says that he has a tech problem, which seems to be par for the course for poor Zap. And he said he'd be right back. So let me go ahead and open up Hangouts so I can call him back when he's back. So what are you guys up to today? What do you guys think of the stories so far? Anything that jumps out at you? He didn't mention No Man's Sky yet, but we're going to talk about it later, I think. He didn't say it. Did he say No Man's Sky? Oh, yes, he did, because he said that he had a sour taste in his mouth from Sony publishing No Man's Sky. You're right. So maybe that is it. Maybe we shouldn't ever talk about No Man's Sky again. Zen. That's funny. I didn't realize we'd have so many legal things to talk about. Eskimo Princess must be in heaven today. I have not seen Tricky Towers, Fomnix. What kind of game is it? Tetris with a twist. Sounds interesting. I like puzzle games. The game that shan't be mentioned. The game that shan't be mentioned. I know you love talking about the legal stuff, Princess. What are you trying to fix there, Moonwolf? Oh, I'm buffering. I haven't dropped hardly any frames. Maybe 100. I dropped 187 frames in the last hour, 12 minutes. The game that shan't be mentioned. Yes, that's how I'll say it. I'm not going to say that. I don't have the stuff to make an echo. Put it on the soundboard. I have stuff like this on the soundboard.
Hey, phrasing.
I got that. Yeah, Fomnix, I'll give you link permission. Oh, good. Thank you, Moonwolf. Let's check it out. Let us check it out. Tricky Towers. Okay, let me shut off the music. What? Oh, okay. So they don't snap together neatly? I could not play this game. I can't play this game if they don't snap together neatly. That's why I like Tetris, because they snap together in a nice, neat way each time. Abby just bought a bunch of games from Humble Bundle that she will never play. I have Towerfall... Wait, Towerfall Ascension isn't anything like that. I have Towerfall Ascension. Yeah, this is... Towerfall Ascension is not like that.
Unite to save Towerfall. The
turncoat lurks in the shadows, eager to expose the corrupted king. The elusive thief.
Yeah,
has
you jump around and
returned,
shoot
trained
things
for
with a bow and
vengeance by
arrow.
the forgotten master.
I'm gonna mute this. Put on some music. Yeah, so Towerfall Ascension is not anything like that. Oh yeah, it's got similar graphics. But that game that what was it called? Tricky Towers? I could never play that because they don't snap together nice and neat like in Tetris. That being said, I don't remember the last time there was a good Tetris game. Actually, yes, I do. The best Tetris game that I ever played was Tetris DS, and it was all Nintendo themed. You had like these backgrounds and stuff that was going on that you could play. Actually, let me see if I can find Tetris DS so you can see what it was like. I put 1,000,000 hours into Tetris DS. Videos. Good, it's muted. Yeah, so you had like this thing on the top, and then the bottom screen you played Tetris, and Mario would move based on how well you were doing and stuff like that. This game, the control was perfect. The music was fun, and I put many hours into playing Tetris DS. It also had that standard mode, Tetris DS. What's the other mode? Oh, 1 second while I'm waiting for Zap. All right, I'm back. Oh yeah, it was great. And then there was another one, another mode. God, what was it? Multiplayer? Yeah, push mode. There you go. Check this out. This is cool. So, for this one, you played on the top, and your enemy played on the bottom. And you were trying to send so because it was dual screen, so you're playing up here, and the person you're playing against is down here, and you're trying to send the blocks across to them. It was incredibly fun, and it was the best multiplayer Tetris I had ever played. And it was, and then when Tetris came out for the 3DS, I bought it immediately, thinking that it was something that was going to be great, but it was not. It's not a good game. I don't know which version I have, but it's not good. And they've just kind of been, coasting for a really long time on what Tetris is. But I downloaded a Tetris for my iPad the other day, and it's just not very fun. You got to have the buttons. You can't play Tetris without the buttons, and that's the thing. So anyway, hopefully Tetris comes back and does it right, because the thing about Tetris is you've got to have precise controls that are very easy to use, and you've got to have really good music. Oh, here's the other thing. The Tetris on my DS or on my 3DS. Oh, which one is it? I want to see what it's called. I call it Tetris Disappointment. Where is it? That's not it. Yeah. Oh, Tetris Ultimate. Yeah, Tetris Ultimate right there. That game, terrible. Doesn't even have the Tetris music in it. The bam, that's not in the game. It's not in the game at all. And that's terrible. How could you make a Tetris game that doesn't have that music? I mean, I understand that Tengen, when they put out Tetris, and by the way, if you ever read or maybe, I bet you there's a documentary about the history of Tetris. It's incredibly It's incredibly cool, interesting story about Tetris from this guy whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. Gosh, what was his name? I'm gonna have to look it up. Who made Tetris? Ah, there we go. Alexei Pajitnov. All right, so Alexei Pajitnov made this awesome game, and then people just kept stealing it from him and putting it all over the place, and then they started suing each other. I stole it first. It was really weird. It's very interesting, and I'll bet you that we can find it soon. So Zap just sent me a message. He's booting up his second PC to try and do it on there. Boy, that guy, he's got to get this figured out. He's got all kinds of technical issues. I feel really bad for him. If Tetris has taught me anything, it's that errors pile up and accomplishments disappear. That's awesome, Fomnix. I bet that's got to be a shirt somewhere. Did you just make that up? Zap's computer crashed, so we're waiting for him back. What's up? Yeah. Your dad just walked in. I didn't even know he was here. Did you know he was coming? A little warning would have been nice. Oh. I'm in here doing my thing. He walks in, and I just ignored him and kept doing my thing because I was recording. Then I saw him when I was cleaning. But I was busy cleaning up the mirror, so I kind of ignored him again. Zap, come on, man! So, how much do you think that he is smashing his computer right now? Do you think he's in there and like pieces of his keyboard are flying everywhere as he's trying to get this thing working again? Well, you got a 100. Oh, congrats, princess. That's awesome. All that studying paid off. I don't know. I use oh, what's it called? I use something called, I can't get it to open. Never coming back, computer thrown out the window. I use something called Live Streamer Twitch, GUI. So basically, here, let me add a window. That's not it. So basically, I've got this this program, and when I click on one of these, it opens up Twitch in a VLC window, and then I have my own separate chat thing that I use. And that's called Live Streamer Twitch GUI. And I don't seem to run into any problems with that at all. Doesn't he just walk around with a butcher knife all the time? He comes back with a broken RAM motherboard network card. Yeah, so that plays stuff in VLC. All right, well, while I'm waiting for him, I'm going to go get a drink real quick. I will be right back. Stand up, stretch your legs, guys.
Take time out to pause and refresh.
Hello. Hey man, how you doing? Exactly. That should have disabled the echo.
You got it.
Yeah, okay, nice. Wow. What? I honestly don't know what is going on. I thought I'd solved all problems. Everything was running smoothly today. I've done a load of videoing. I've done loads, and I've had no problems at all. And I don't know if it's because I put Windows 10 onto, because I never reformatted after fixing the problem. So whether the blue screens are still logged or something, I don't know enough about PCs to understand it.
Yeah, it's okay, man. You just wanted a cup of coffee. We know.
I wish that was the reason.
All right, you ready to get back to it? Or,
Yeah, I'm good to go. Can you do us a favour though?
Sure.
Just link the in the Hangouts chat. Can you just link the Google Docs, because I can't seem to find I can't get to the Google Docs on this computer. Oh, I don't know this actually.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. All right, where do we get to? Sorry, guys. Sorry to everyone in chat. I apologise deeply.
That's okay. We were all laughing at you.
That's fine. There is definitely an underlying issue that I am not qualified in computer fixing to know what's going on.
All right. So we left off. I finished basically talking about Heroes of the Storm. So
Heroes of the Storm, yeah.
If you want to just jump into your next story, which is the Destiny one, go for it.
Yeah, Destiny. Okay, so Destiny coming to the PC. Destiny 2 is rumored to come to the PC. Let me just move that there. Hopefully that doesn't mess too much up. Okay, right. So yeah, Destiny 2 is rumored to be coming to PC. It's only rumors at the minute, mind you. So, which is good, I think. Which is actually something they should do. They should have done with Destiny 1 actually, brought it to the PC, because it's the perfect kind of game for PC gamers. It's a first-person MMO shooter. I never really understood, unless it was just to do with rights and all that kind of legal stuff, why it never came to the PC. As I said, these are rumors, but it's been rumored on a few different sites that it's quite possibly. Apparently, it was leaked by someone who has a friend working. This story really does sound a bit iffy when you say like this.
My dad works at Nintendo.
It's kind of like, my friend works for Activision who's leaked it, but that's exactly how it's apparently come out. But it has been reported on 2-3 different sites as saying that Destiny 2 is coming to the PC, which is cool. I think they shouldn't have left it on the console. And I after playing first-person shooters on the PC, I now appreciate first-person shooters on PC. The movement and all the accuracy, the precision, all that kind of stuff, I really do think is for PC. Well, personal experience, I've obviously been playing Overwatch a lot. That Paladin's clone. No, I've been playing a lot, and then went to Destiny and streamed some Destiny. Kept dying because I was turning the joystick on my PlayStation 4 controller.
Oh, I'm losing you, man.
Hang on.
You're super quiet again.
How's that?
I don't know. It just cut out in the middle of your sentence. You got real quiet.
So as I was saying, when I was playing Overwatch a lot on the PC, it was like you had all the precision in the world, but then when I switched over to play Destiny on my PlayStation, I I felt like I was moving in treacle. Felt really slow. So
Moving what?
moving in treacle or a sticky substance.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not what I meant. That sounded wrong. Moving really slowly, and it's so the saying here we say moving in treacle because treacle is a thick, sticky substance. So that's how I felt. And I really do think Destiny could have a real strong place on the PC if they got it right. I don't know about your thoughts.
My thoughts is I'm always happy when more games to come to PC. First off, who's the publisher for Destiny?
It's Bungie, which obviously owned by
All right.
Activision.
So that means that the Activision, I don't believe they have their own way to their own online store. So that means it'll probably be on Steam, which is great for two reasons. First off, when I buy a new system, I don't want to have to buy the game again. And Steam makes sure that all my stuff is always backwards compatible. The second reason that I'm really excited, that I'm happy to hear this, if it's true, which I don't know, is that Destiny, like the first one I heard was not great. Then they fixed everything that people said about the Taken King. I like it when developers listen to people and fix the mistakes that they made. Everything that I heard about Taken King was that they fixed all of the major problems that people had with the game. So it's almost like the consoles were the beta test, and now they're going to bring it to the real system. Not that consoles aren't real system. I'm just saying that for me, it's the real system. I'm excited to Destiny looks cool. I like MMOs. MMOs are my kind of game, and a game where there's a shooter that's an MMO that really gets under my skin and makes me want to play it. Like I played PlanetSide. I loved PlanetSide. PlanetSide 2 didn't really do anything for me, but mostly because when it first came out, my system couldn't run it at a reasonable frame rate. The system that I had at the time. And so I was, it didn't look as good as it should. And the frames were too low, and it was just kind of disappointing to play it like that. And it didn't feel like it was optimized very well either. Almost like they used an old engine or something for it. I'm not sure. That being said, I'm looking forward to trying out Destiny 2. I hope that this is true, that it's on the PC. If it is, I will play it. Anything else to add?
No, that's just good. I got a buddy when it comes to the PC.
There you go. All right.
I will say this, just before they did fix it with the Taken King and the Rise of Iron, their new expansion has seriously just improved it beyond. So you could be right. It's console for testing, PC for everything else.
Yeah.
I was going to try and rhyme there, but I failed.
Speaking of things that need more testing, how'd you like that for a segue? BioShock has completely ticked me off. I am mad about this. So last week I talked about it on the show that I was excited that the people who bought who have BioShock 1 and 2 were getting it upgraded for free. Sure enough, it was in my Steam library. I installed it. I even deleted my old ones because I don't need those save games. Whatever. I deleted the old ones. And then I went to play BioShock 1 just to test it to see how it would work before I streamed it. Because I thought maybe I'll stream this. And that game, it's a mess. It is an absolute mess. And now I know that they've said that they're supposed to be fixing this, but the idea that they could ship this and think that it's okay is ridiculous. I couldn't play the game in full screen, for one. If I tried to play it in full screen, the game would crash. Apparently they didn't fix any of the old bugs that were in the game. And like, some of the coolest parts of that game are when you're coming around a corner and you just see the shadow of an enemy doing some creepy thing and you're like, what is going on there? And then you come around the corner and you see what it is that you were looking at. Apparently those shadows aren't working in the newest version of BioShock. So you can't even go through and experience the game the way that it was meant to be experienced because there's so many bugs with it. So I'm just really disappointed that BioShock, coming from a developer who I think is, by all accounts, fantastic. I am a big fan of oh my god, I can't remember their flipping name.
Bethesda. I think Bethesda.
No, not Bethesda.
2K.
Yeah, 2K games. I'm a big fan of 2K games. I really like their games, and I loved BioShock. And to have it be just such a ridiculous mess is terrible. What do you think about that?
No, I completely agree. I've done some video work today, actually, and that's what I was working on today on BioShock. And I was really disappointed. I did. Going through there on the first one. The videos on my YouTube channel. I don't really notice it too much in the first one. I'm doing their puzzles. They've got some additional content with like 3 puzzles, which are really good fun. A lot of fun, a lot of good stuff there. But in the second video, there's textures popping in. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, this is 21st century. This game has been out since 2007. I think the first BioShock was released. Hang on a minute, why haven't they fixed this texture popping? And I'm getting some serious lag issues. And there were some real problems going through the second puzzle, and it wasn't even the main game. So yeah, I completely agree with you that I was excited for this HD remaster. Like you, got the originals, deleted the originals as well, installed did exactly as you did, and it's like, well, they're just a complete mess, a complete shambles. I think they're that bad that they've turned around and put the BioShock 2 review on Steam to mixed from when it was, very good.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah, I think it's had a real knock-on effect on.
Well, and what. I didn't think. I mean, how could they make the game worse than it was to begin with? That's what I don't understand. I can't even play the game full screen. And I was like, is it just me? And so I loaded up a stream. A guy that I watch from time to time, he plays on YouTube Gaming. I loaded up his stream because he was playing BioShock. I saw it on my Twitter feed. And I clicked it. And yes, it was... I'm sorry, Moonwolf is correct. It's not 2K that did the remaster. It's Blind Squirrel Studios. But Blind Squirrel Studios had to submit something to 2K Games, and they had to approve it before it went out. I mean, I would assume so anyway. I'm not sure. But anyway, I was watching this stream, and I was like complaining, oh man, I couldn't even get it to load in full screen. He's like, oh no, neither could I. I'm playing it windowed right now. And it crashed about 15 times in the 20 minutes that I tried to watch him play. So it was just a disaster, and I'm really disappointed with it. What I'll probably end up doing, because now I kind of want to play BioShock again. It's been enough years that it's been like 8 years since I played it. So I'm going to have a whole lot of fun playing it again, but I'm not going to be playing the remastered version. I'm going to go back and play the original. And guess what? The graphics were really good, and they were made in such a way they didn't look ultra realistic. They looked stylized, so I bet you that it holds up just fine 8 years later. And I'm very interested to play it again, but I'm really disappointed that it came out and is such a pile of garbage. It's like just hot dog turds is what I was going to describe this as. Absolutely terrible.
That's being polite. I called it something else earlier. But going on to what Kodiak Moonwolf says about Blind Squirrel Studios, they knew there was problems in the original, and then there was problems in the PC version originally. There was some field of view problems and stuff, so they would have even known this. So come the remaster, they could have. It pains me to say it that they just didn't do it. All they did was just slap some shiny graphics on it, and went remastered, job done. And that's what scares me. I really hope that they just don't. If they're going to remaster a game, we've done remasters to death already on the podcast as well. But if they're going to remaster it, fix the issues, fix problems, and make it worth paying that money again, because it was like £40-50 here in the UK.
It's $60 for all three.
Yeah, so you get all three for $60. That's still a lot of money. I know you're getting 3 games, and I can hear people going, "Well, you get 3 games for 60." Yes, but I don't want to be paying for broken games. I'm not paying money for games that are broken, with graphical issues, with problems that the first 2 games had. I don't pay that money for that. That's not what I pay. If they're going to remaster it, make it look beautiful, fix any problems in the past, get it right.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we got it for free because we already had them. So we didn't pay money for them. Imagine how angry we would be had we paid money for these games. I would be furious if I had paid $60 and I couldn't even play the game in full screen. Especially from a big developer like 2K Games. It's not like, and I know they didn't make it, Blind Squirrel whatever made it, but they had to approve it, and somebody should have sat down and tried to play the game before they said, yeah, let's ship this. All right, let's move on to the last headline for today. Why don't you tell us about it?
Esports team acquired. There you go. We've got another esports. Esports are the thing of the podcast today.
There you go.
This one really caught my attention as being a sports fan. This is big news. This is very, very big news in the world of competitive gaming. I'm going to call it competitive. I prefer competitive gaming as well to esports. Esports is just... Anyway, so Team D... I'm going to completely ruin their names here. Team Dignitas and Apex. Dignitas.
Like dignity.
Have been acquired. Yeah, that one. Have been acquired by the 76ers, the Philadelphia 76ers. So there's now a NBA team own 2 competitive gaming teams. Now, we were talking earlier, obviously, in the podcast about contracts and things like this. This could be the first big move for, making a standard set in this competitive gaming world. But what also this shows is that competitive gaming is big business. It's big, big, big business. And if big sports teams are coming after them, and in the article, you can also read that there's stuff like earlier this year, Premier League clubs West Ham and Man City had their own pro FIFA players, and it's already happened earlier this year. And Schalke FC, which is a German football team, have picked up League of Legends team Elements earlier this year as well. So it's already happening, but this is the biggest, I think, I've seen this year. This is the first time I've seen 2 competitive gaming teams pick up by, a professional outfit like the 76ers. Now, what their plans are, don't know, but from what the article is saying, that the general running of the team and stuff is going to be handing over to the 76ers. They'll directly manage the day-to-day operations of this team. So they're all, they're pushing, instead of being how a competitive team is set up. You depending on how many is in your team. A League of Legends has 5 plus a team manager. So they're getting rid of the team manager, I guess, and being the team manager, and I'm hoping this then puts the players on a salary, fair, contracts and all that. And that's what I hope comes out of this. Not just, oh look, we've acquired 2 of the biggest esports teams. Oh, this is going to make us lots and lots of money, which I expect it will do. But at the same time, I'm hoping that there's contracts, everything that comes out of it, which really will make the competitive sports in gaming just that much secure for people who are at the top, at the top of their game.
Right. Well, Zananali in chat also points out that the Apex team, which is the other team that they bought, because they bought Team Dignitas and Apex. Team Dignitas, I'm familiar with because I know that they play Heroes of the Storm as well as Smite. I think that Apex. He says that Apex is going to be rebranded under the Dignitas brand. So they're taking these 2 teams and they're going to merge them. Right. And I guess the Apex team is a LCS team. I'm guessing the LCS is what's LCS?
I think LCS is like
League?
Standing.
Is it League of Legends?
LCS is.
I suppose I could have Googled it.
I am now doing that.
Okay. Anyway, so they're merging them now. Here's the thing that I'm wondering. are they going to stay Team Dignitas, or are they going to be renamed? I mean, renamed some, like, because right now you get a lot of teams out there that have these, like, these esports teams that have like these odd names. They don't really mean anything. And oh, okay. So Zananali says that it's owned by the developers. So Riot owned that team, which that seems like a huge conflict of interest, that team is owned by the makers of the game. I don't think that you should be able to do that, but whatever. So Team Dignitas, are they going to be the Philadelphia Team Dignitas, or you know what I mean? It's just kind of weird, and I wonder if they're going to be changing things so that they are more like traditional sports. One thing that you did miss that I said earlier when your screen went black is one of the things that I think has to happen in esports is that, and I know that I don't like calling it esports, but that's what I'll call it because that's what I hear people say all the time. But one of the things that I don't like about esports is that I don't know really when people are playing these games. If I want to follow, you know, like if I'm a football fan, American football, sorry. If I'm a football fan and I want to know, and I want to follow the New York Giants, it's pretty easy for me to say, all right, well, football is played on Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So one of those days is when I'm going to see the Giants play every week. And I just got to see what time they're going to play and what channel it's on. Now, esports doesn't seem like, it's not like I'm going to, I follow Team Dignitas and team, all, I don't know, Heroes of the Storm games happen at like, I don't know, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or something. They're all over the place. And yes, I can look it up, but it's not a regular thing. It's like, okay, well, this week they're going to be playing these, 5 games this week or something like that. I think it would just make more sense to people, especially people who don't already like esports, if they had it set up so that it was like it was scheduled like other sports. In addition to that, something that drives me absolutely bananas about esports is it almost always seems like there's a championship of some kind. And I'm not sure what the hell is going on. It's like with American football, I know that there is the Super Bowl, and that is the championship. And that's pretty much it. The rest of it is regular season play. And so I know that, I can tune in and I can say, all right, well, they're in the season of 2016 season, and I'm watching them play their sports ball. And sure enough, the team that I like has won their game, so now they're X and O for this season. That makes sense to me. When I look at the season for esports, it's very confusing, and it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And Zananali also said that TBS, which is a TV station here in the U.S., they started their own league last year called E-League. But he says that they're trying to do it the way that I said that it should be done, and that's have the games on the same day every week, and you tune in to watch the games. You don't have to play 400 games a week, or you don't have to everybody doesn't have to be televised every week. You know what I mean? You could,
no, exactly.
They can have scrimmages or whatever, and those could be on Twitch or whatever, but or they can be wherever. But you have this week the big matchup are these two teams, and maybe these other two teams and these other two teams are also playing. But I just think it'd be cool if they treated it more like sports, and it would help people make that transition that I know a lot of people are having trouble with. Oof, my goodness. All right. Do you have anything to jump in there?
No, I think you hit on the head. I find it, like you say, very difficult to follow esports because of you boot up Twitch, and the only one I really follow is the Guild Wars. But even Guild Wars, you're like, who's playing? right? Okay, and they're playing tomorrow. They're playing, and it's very weird. The only
And
reason
everybody
I
looks
can
the same.
follow it properly is because of Jebro, and
Yeah.
luckily he will tell us who's playing and who to watch, and so yeah, I could do with a bit more scheduling easier. So we'll have to keep an eye on what's going to happen.
Yeah, and another one thing that drives me crazy about Guild Wars is when I'm watching, everybody looks the same. When I'm watching a football game, I can tell people apart by their uniforms. And I know that that's something that doesn't make so much sense in a game like Guild Wars, but I think it's important, especially if you're trying to watch esports with somebody who is unfamiliar with the game. They're going to have trouble understanding what's happening on the screen because there's nothing to indicate to them what's going on. It's very confusing unless you are an expert at the game. That being said, let's move on. You have some news about Firewatch?
Yeah. Have you played Firewatch yourself? Is it something you've looked at?
I played Firewatch and I loved that game. That game, I bought it.
Yep.
Bye, dude. I bought the game. I booted it up. This is back when I was streaming on YouTube Gaming. I streamed it, and immediately after finishing the game, I turned around and I went out to the living room because I have a Steam Link, and I said to my wife, I said, honey, you have to see this game. And I sat down and I played through it the next day while she watched. And that game was amazing storytelling. It is not so much a game as a true, and a lot of games say this, not so much a game, but a true interactive, immersive experience into this very well-crafted world. And yes, it was short, but I enjoyed every second of it. So yes, did I play that game? I loved it. It's one of my #1s of the year.
You're going to love this one then, because they're making it into a film.
Oh, no. Okay, who's in it?
Don't know yet. They've just announced that it's being made into a film. I think it's going to star Tom Hanks. No. I'm just putting his name out because I think. But I've played it. I played through Firewatch, and again, I enjoyed it. I need to go back really and play it again to remind myself of the story. The walking simulator, as I did like to call it. It really is a great. It's a game that just draws you in. It's not very long. And
probably about 5 hours.
Yeah, one sitting, and it's one of them games where once you start, you need to finish. You need to finish because you want to find out what's the next part of the story. In certain games like, I don't know, let's take, I know they're completely two different games. Guild Wars 2. What drives you to turn that computer on and play it is either your next ascended piece or run a dungeon, a fractal. What drives me to keep going in this game, this is about drive. The point is not about the games; it's about the drive that keeps going. Is I wanted to find out the next bit she was going to say, or the next bit he was going to say. Not going to spoil any of the story for guys out there who haven't played it, but I'd highly recommend this game. All sit tight. It's going to be like a feature film, so it's not going to be like overly long, So it'd probably be like 40 minutes, something like that, which is quite cool. I think they could really get it done if they do it well and make it really, really nice. I think Firewatch would make a perfect, ideal game to film sort of transition. So I'm quite excited about that. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do and how they come about it, and it's definitely watch this space. But yeah, Firewatch is being made into a feature film.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I was really excited when I saw that in the show notes. I didn't click the link, but I saw the title that you posted, just Firewatch movie. And
yeah,
I don't even need a lot of times when you translate from game to movie, one of the problems that they have is, well, okay, you gotta take a hatchet, and the same thing with books to movies. You gotta go in there with a hatchet and cut stuff out. And I don't think that you would have to with Firewatch. The game is already pretty short. It's a 5-hour game, but I'll bet you if I wanted to, I could speed run that game, no problem in 2 hours. And that's just because a lot of the time in that 5 hours is me wandering around not being sure where I'm supposed to go. But exactly like you said, if you have not played Firewatch, you owe it to yourself to play it. It is really good. And yes, that's why you play it, is to hear the dialogue between these characters is very well written and very well acted. The guy who, I don't know who played, I would say the second protagonist, but the main protagonist is played by a guy from Mad Men. He's in Mad Men. And he's a great actor, and he's a very good voice actor as well. And one thing that I will say about the graphics is that game has some really, really beautiful graphics when you're playing. It's highly stylized. It does not look overly realistic, but when I saw it, I was just like, man, that game is something that I'm going to really enjoy. And it's not even very expensive. I think it's like, I don't know, $20 or something like that. It's cheap, and it's worth every penny. So get out there and play Firewatch if you haven't. Next, go ahead.
No, go on. It's all good. All good.
Okay, I was just going to say, next story in the lightning round is Dracula turns 30, which some of you are like, I think he's older than that. What I'm actually talking about is Castlevania turns 30, and there's no Castlevania in sight. I don't think we're ever going to get another Castlevania game, and that makes me so sad. Did you play Castlevania?
I'm going to say I think it's something I might have missed.
Okay.
I can say I can emulate it.
So if you've ever heard of Metroidvania, you know that that's a genre of game that I really like. It's these games that are based on both Metroid and Castlevania, because these two kind of co-developed, not together, but completely separately, the same genre of game, where you've got this massive world, and the world is locked behind items that you have to get to get to different areas of it. Castlevania kind of got rebooted into like a 3D one, but that's not what this game is about. The Castlevania was a 2D side scroller with a massive world where you get different items in order to traverse the world, and that's a lot like Metroid. And it's Konami, and Konami is not really making games anymore. So I don't think that we're going to get any more Castlevanias, but I'm sure some people already have heard of this, is that Koji Igarashi, he's the one who worked on the original stuff, maybe not the original stuff, but he's the one that made some of the most well-respected Castlevania games. He's making a game currently called, get out of here, cat. Sorry, my cat knocked over my trash. He's a moron. Yeah. No, he's making this game called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and it's basically a Castlevania game in all but name. He put it out on Kickstarter. He had a $500,000 goal. It's going to be released on the Xbox One, the PS4, the PC. And he was originally at Konami, and he left Konami to create his own studio. And then this is what they're working on, is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Now, if this story sounds familiar to you, it's because it's almost exactly what happened with Capcom and the producer of the original Mega Man series, Keiji Inafune. He left Capcom to make his own studio, and then they brought out Mighty Number 9, which got $4 million in backing pledges, but then it didn't actually do too well in the reviews. People are saying that wasn't very good. So hopefully Igarashi doesn't fall into that same trap that Inafune did, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is a worthy successor to the Castlevania mantle, because it doesn't seem like we're going to get a Castlevania game probably ever again, and that makes me very, very sad. That's all.
No, I as soon as you said it was Konami, you know exactly why you're never going to get one. And unfortunately, Konami is just I don't even know where Konami is these days. So it's something that, looking at the consoles that it's on, I think I'm going to give it a check out, because I was watching you play Shovel Knight last night, and this looks like a lot like that kind of game. Whether Shovel Knight is based on these games, I don't know.
It is.
But
it is definitely. It is. Shovel Knight is a Metroidvania game, and Metroidvania games are based on Metroid and Castlevania.
Then it's something I'm going to check out. As a gamer, I think I owe it to myself, seeing as it's on many platforms, to have a look.
Yeah, and as far as Shovel Knight goes, you might want to check that game out too. You can probably get it pretty cheap, and I think it might even be a Vita game.
It is a Vita game, and I nearly picked it up last night, but I don't dare stream it, because after what we did to you last night, I think you might do even worse.
For those of you listening, I was streaming Shovel Knight last night, and one of the cool things in Shovel Knight is that there's checkpoints as you make your way through the level, but you can up the risk by for more reward by smashing your checkpoints. So people would in my channel, you earn action points as we play through, or as you're in chat with me and being an active chatter. And people were saying, all right, I'll give 100, I'll delete 100 points from my total, and you have to hit the checkpoint once, and if I hit it 3 times, it breaks, and so that means if I die, I go back even further in the game. So when I was playing it last night, it was really fun, and having them do that added another level of fun and frustration. Let's jump into our last story in the lightning round. What's going on here?
Well, I had a story. My original story was about Battlefield 2142 being rebooted by some, but that's a story that can wait, and I want to see what happens with that. Kodiak Moonwolf brought this one to my attention, and it had No Man's Sky in the title. I couldn't resist. I'm just attracted to that game. So we're going to do it with a live reaction, because I haven't read through all this one properly yet. So No Man's Sky is being investigated by Advertising Standards Authority. So basically, if you've been living under a rock for the past 8 weeks, because it has been out for 8 weeks, No Man's Sky was meant to be the mecca of games. It was supposed to be the one that was going to save us all, so they said, and it was the biggest flop. I mean, there are now on Steam, I did check before we went live last week, there are like 100 players playing No Man's Sky. And wow. I bet they're just sitting in a space station somewhere, not even moving. 100 players on Steam. The day it released, it was 232,000 on Steam alone playing No Man's Sky. To 8 to 9 weeks later, to 100 players. That is just mad. So what's going on here is the No Man's Sky saga continues, and it looks like they're being investigated, as its title says, by the Advertising Standards Authority, and it's the UK's ASA, which, from my understanding, it's to do all of the marketing and the promotions and what was regulated by the content of the game. So, but as I said last week, the publishing and the PR was actually done by Sony. Sean Murray has been proven he's the fall guy, he's the kick guy. So what I don't quite get is, why are the ASA investigating Hello Games when they should actually be going after Sony?
Well, my guess is that the ASA don't understand the difference between a developer and a publisher. These guys aren't gamers, probably. They're bureaucrats. And so they're not going to know what's going on. Kodiak Moonwolf just said that there's a link in Discord. Let me see if I can find it. It says a list of the things that they're investigating. Which Discord, Moonwolf?
Do you find it?
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna wait until he responds. But if there was false advertising that happened, then I do think that it's important that No Man's Sky, or either the advertising agency that said so, or the or not that said so, the advertising agency that made the ads, or that the company Sean, what was his name? Sean what?
Sean Murray.
Sean Murray. Or Sean Murray. They ought to get punished for that, because this kind of thing I think happens too often. Okay, Kodiak Moonwolf gave me the link. He said the things that they've compiled a list in which they believe No Man's Sky advertising is unrepresentative. User interface design, ship flying behavior in formation with a wingman flying close to the ground, behavior of animals in herds destroying the scenery and water, reacting to surroundings. So I'm guessing that this is all stuff that they said would happen and has not happened.
There's actually a trailer with most of this happening.
You can't fly with a wingman because there's no multiplayer in the game. Large-scale space combat. Is that something that's in the game?
Barely.
Okay. Flowing water. Okay. These are really strange lists of things. Then they said quality of the graphics. This right here is the thing that jumps out most to me as one of the most important things in this quote-unquote lawsuit. This idea with the quality of the graphics. There are far too many times, and I've talked about this on past episodes, maybe not with you, but even before you joined the podcast, I talked about this, where it really ticks me off when they show footage that is clearly not gameplay footage, and they'll say something on the screen. They'll even put it on the bottom. It'll say rendered. God, how did they say it? Oh, no. They'll say in-game engine footage. Okay. Well, here's the thing. You can shut off everything that's behind the player if you know exactly where the player is going to be looking the whole time. And you can really make what the player is going... If they're always going to be... If you know where they're going to look, you can make that look fantastic as long as you don't draw anything else. So they will say that it's in-engine, and that might be true, but it's not actual gameplay, because if it was actual gameplay, they would say actual gameplay. And if a company is going to get sued for saying that their graphics are fantastic when they're not... That's good, because there's too often we see an advertisement for a game, and what we're seeing is not anything close to what the game is going to be like, and that ticks me off. That's one of my pet peeves. Urgh.
Yeah, no, Ubisoft last year did it with The Division. Division was one of them games. They said, oh, this is in-game engine running out, and The Division, when it came out, didn't look anything like it. Watch Dogs was another one. They showed at E3, and do you know where these ones are? It's E3 where it's happening. The biggest, announcements are always at E3, and the biggest trailers where they give it all this is E3. So that's where they're all showing it, and I'm about to link the E3 trailer from No Man's Sky from 2014, which shows like a completely different game. In the chat, and that there shows like a whole different style of game to what we actually got, and at some point you have to watch and see it, because when they showed this at 2014, I remember watching this and just sitting there with my jaw open, because this looked absolutely fantastic. Now I know full well that in game development things change. Don't get me wrong, I understand that more than anything, but to change this much and to not have half the content that they promised, and Sean Murray was seen on live interviews and all of this stuff, that's where, yeah, I agree. If the ASA think that it's worth going involved in, then get involved, and hopefully it's a slow crackdown of what game developers do, because the amount of people that bought No Man's Sky and then tried to refund, it's a mess. It really is just a mess. And again, it's one of those stories that I think I'm going to keep a close eye on. I'm sorry the podcast doesn't get rid of No Man's Sky that quick just yet. I think hopefully if we can, hopefully there's some follow-up news in the coming months about this, and we can see where and what's happening. So we'll keep an eye out and see where it goes.
Yeah, and hopefully, what I hope comes out of this is that I hope that the gaming industry gets a little more regulated about what they're allowed to promise and and based on what they deliver. And that's really my biggest problem here is when and I never played this game, so I can't say anything definitively about it. But for me, my biggest problem is when game companies say one thing and then we get something else that really ticks me off, and I don't like it.
I completely agree.
All right, well, normally at this point we would have the long play, but we're just going to skip the long play because we had Zap's segment about EGX, so we're going to jump straight to Wish Listed. And I'm going to talk about a game that I actually... Well, that's the wrong link. Okay. I actually bought this morning because it's on sale right now. It's called Never Alone. I got a notification on my phone this morning. An item on your Steam wish list is on sale. Never Alone. I saw somebody play this, and it looks really cool. It's like you're this little girl, and you have like this albino fox hanging out with you. And it's like a side-scrolling adventure. And it's only $3 right now. It's normally $15. So it's 80% off right now. And... Wow, okay. It's getting a very, very good reviews. I'm actually gonna cut the video off so that we can't see it because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. I'm looking forward to playing it. I'm gonna play it on stream when I get to it. But for $3, even if I don't get to it for a while, it's worth buying it now. So it's on sale now for $3 on Steam. If you got $3, go get it. If you don't have $3, just don't get coffee tomorrow. But there you go. What are you going to talk about today there, Bob?
One game I didn't mention from EGX that I did catch a little bit, and this is well and truly now on my radar, Mafia 3. Yes. The Mafia series has been one of my favourite open world gaming series, along with Grand Theft Auto. Mafia 3, please be better than the second one, because the second one, the story was too short and it finished a bit abruptly. And Mafia 3 is a violent game, I'm not going to lie, but I love open world stories that have real, like, this kind of gangsterish story to it, and all the things that you read about and you watch films for. I want to play that kind of character, and this has given me that opportunity, that kind of rise from the bottom all the way to the top, open world kind of action. So this is well and truly on my radar. It's available in just over a week. So I'm really looking forward to this. I just hope that... See, Mafia 1 had some really cool, interesting ideas where you'd have to get petrol. It sounds really weird to be excited about this sort of stuff, but you used to get you have to go fill your cars up and stuff like that. Which you don't see. It added like a sense of realism to the game where you were constantly on those sort of stuff. And do you know what? These kind of games really, really do, because they're big games, and I feel like when I'm paying £40-50 for a game, I want to get my money's worth. I want to make sure, especially a game like this, I want to be able to invest 200-300 hours into it of my own spare time. I want that game to be so good. It's an era that I love reading about, watching about. So Mafia 3 is well and truly on my list.
Yeah, what era is it? Because I wasn't really paying attention to, like, it seemed modern times, but now that you say it, it doesn't. So is this like the 80s?
No, it's like I think it's set in late 60s, early 70s.
Oh yeah, now that I'm looking at the cars, like I didn't notice that right away.
It's set up to be around the era of, especially because you play a black guy, and it's set up around that kind of era in America.
Oh, awesome!
So hopefully they touch on things like that, because game development doesn't really do that. The oppression of black people in America and stuff like that, and all that kind of stuff. I love history. I'm a history guy. Hopefully there's some, even though the trailer some of it looks hilarious, where he's got a rocket launcher and he's, shooting random things. But I want to see where they go. And yeah, no, please be please be good. All I want you to do is be good. Nothing else. Just be good.
I really... One thing that I would really like to see more of, and I don't know if it's happened and people just haven't noticed it, or if I haven't noticed it. But I'd like to see more games that tell stories from true, not necessarily this is a true story, but from this is something that could have happened in the past during this tumultuous time in the history of our planet. And it's an important story, and it's not over the top. Like the thing that you were just saying, yeah, it's a little hilarious he's running around with a rocket launcher. That probably is not something that happened very often back in the 60s. It's not even something that would really happen in America. In modern day, you're not going to have rocket launchers very often. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I wish that they would just take it, and I know that game developers always feel like, okay, well, we have to keep one-upping ourselves as we play. And I'll say levels, even though the game isn't a linear game with levels in it. But level 2 has to be better than level 1. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be ramped up to be better. It has to have an interesting story. And I'm not saying Mafia 3 doesn't have an interesting story, because just from watching the trailer, it looks fantastic, and it's on my radar now too. I will probably add that game to my wish list. It'll be low on my wish list, but it'll be on my wish list. I just wish that they would try and be a little more realistic, especially with historical stuff, because I think that game, or that would be amazing. An amazing way to learn about history if they hired actual historians to say, well, that kind of thing wouldn't happen. First off, that gun didn't exist at that time, and at this point in time, this would have happened, and this, you know what I mean? I just think it'd be cool if they got real with it.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right. So that is it for Wish Listed. We do now get to a segment that I like to call Hey Listen.
Hey, listen.
And we're going to hear from some listeners. So this week we asked you guys to tell us what you think about games copying each other. And one of the reasons that we talked about this was because we said there was a story out there that Paladins was copying Overwatch, and we got 2 people wrote in this week. Thank you very much for writing in, and stick around and I'll tell you guys how to write in afterwards. But I'll read you one of them, and then we'll get your reaction, and I'll probably yap a bit, and then we'll read the next one, and so on. So Nakashima Fide, who is awesome, by the way, she wrote in and she said, blatantly copying things from another game is shady in my opinion. The way the hooking character in Paladins has the exact same animation and pretty much the exact same model for hook/gun in first person is a blatant copy. And I have to agree with her. When I watched that video of the person who had the hook, like the way that the character is holding their weapons is exactly the same, and the animation for how they throw that out and then pull the enemy back again is exactly the same. Taking an idea like that and giving it your own spin, even if that means altering the weapon, should be fine, but I don't want to look at footage of a game like Paladins and say, oh, there's Roadhog and that's clearly Mei. Oh, and hey, it's Farah. The animations are just too close, together with the looks and mechanics, in my opinion. That's just way too much of a copy. So, what do you think about that?
I think agree. I mean, I actually went back to Paladins just after the podcast a couple of days ago and played their new content. Because when we talked about the story, I hadn't played any of this new content that the people were talking about, and whether, just to have a look at what, and it's a great game, but watching that trailer made me feel really sad, because you play the guy, you'll play the guy with the hook and you'll just go, what's Roadhog? And the same with the turret dude, you'll go, what's Torbjorn? And it's like, and I'm one of these people who say, game developers will there'll always be a game developer that will copy an idea from another, and this is idea, not animations or anything like that before it gets, into the legal side of things, but they'll copy an idea and they'll put a spin on it. Look at, we said it last week, the Mortal Kombat hook, from Scorpion. Well, that's that idea of hooking someone has been in loads of games. Guild Wars 2, Scorpion Wire, Thieves have it. So you've got this idea of a hook. That's fine.
It's even called Scorpion Wire.
Yeah, Thieves have Scorpion Wire. And there was, change the subject very completely on a tangent. There's actually a guy running around on EU World v World that's made his character look like Scorpion. But anyway,
Nice.
it looks amazing. But so you get this idea. So Paladin's developers could have gone, right, we want to throw a hook at that character, bring them in, then shoot them. Right, so hang on a minute, what game is doing this? Overwatch. Okay, we like the idea. Don't just copy that animation. Don't just go, well, let's just use what they do. Change it. Make it so when I play your game, I feel completely different from when I go to Overwatch. They could have done all sorts of things with a hook. They could have had you throw it in a sense that instead of going straight at them, that could hook a leg, and it CCs the character by pulling them on the floor, and it puts them on the deck.
Or just turn it into a tractor beam or something that's different, so it doesn't look exactly the same, because it really does look exactly the same. And Paladins is kind of sitting on a game that is really good, and it's going to... Yeah, they're ruining it by stealing. And I was of the opinion last week that, we'll see how it turns out. But when I really looked at that video, I was like, man, that is just blatant. That's just blatant stealing.
Yeah, that totally the same. It was, and I do understand. We obviously Eskimo Princess last week. She raised very good points about this.
Oh, she wrote in this week too, so we got some more. Yeah, you want to hear it?
Some more. Yeah, let's do Eskimo, and then we'll carry on because
all right. She wants me to do this in a voice that I'm not going to do. So she says, hey, Eskimo Princess here. I'm going to give my opinion of Overwatch versus Paladins. I love how that she wrote Overwatch v Paladins like a lawyer.
It's like a boxing ring.
Yeah. In less than a minute because RJS can't handle more than 1 minute of my awesomeness. I suppose that's true. Here we go. Oh, red light. Okay. Here we go. She wanted that red like Mario and Luigi. All right. She says, Copyright Act of 1976 says this about the timeline of a copyright, which seems to be the biggest question in this debate. The act says registration of a work with the Copyright Office is not a prerequisite for copyright protection. The act does, however, allow for registration and gives the Copyright Office the power to promulgate the necessary forms, so required for copyright protection to attach to a work. Section 411 of the Act does require registration before a copyright infringement action by the creator of the work can proceed. So what she's saying here is that Blizzard can't sue anybody unless they have actually registered their thing with the Copyright Office.
Yeah.
All right. Then she says, this falls into what I said before. I don't want to go into looking for who did what first. That's for the courts to do, and then decide based on the facts. No one knows the facts, and that's why it's such an interesting topic. Then she says, Zap mentioned gameplay, which isn't the issue here, and you kind of already covered that. You can throw out a hook and hook somebody a million times. That's not worth suing over. Right?
That's exactly what I said last week. It's
right.
That kind of...
Exactly. And so she said, that's not the issue here. No one, in parentheses, law-related, is asking questions about gameplay or playstyle. It's only the characters who have significant artistic resemblances that are called into question. And I totally agree. They really do have significant artistic resemblances. They look like the other characters. I only hope Blizzard sues so that I can read the case briefs about it. So that's it. Hopefully that took you less than a minute to read. It didn't because I talked too much. And then she signs off with knowledge dropped, masses educated.
I think Right, on my point, it was just the pure because I had seen people throw out the argument that the gameplay is and you can't copyright gameplay, that you can't copyright that mechanic. That mechanic can never be copyrighted because if they did, then I think we said who was the first person to throw the hook out. They'd be suing everyone.
Not only that, but we'd be on it. You would very quickly run out of ways to play games.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I completely agree that and I was very much like you, very much like, oh, we'll see how this pans out, sort of thing. And then once I sat down, and even the game in its current state feels like Overwatch, and it's really sad to sit there and go, well, I might as well just play Overwatch. When you're playing a good game, because Paladins is not a bad game.
It's not.
And when you have that feeling, well, I might as well play Overwatch. Then the game becomes irrelevant to existence, because all of a sudden what they've done is they've gone, and here's my biggest my two comparisons on this one: WoW and Guild Wars. Okay, when Guild Wars 2 was released and announced, they said it was going to be the WoW killer, blah 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 blah, all this sort of stuff. So what you have is you have two MMOs. They have similar kind of stuff in MMO stuff, legendary, all this kind of stuff, all the gameplay mechanics. But what they are is they're alternatives to each other, and that's what you want in the game industry. You can be a WoW fan, but you can also play Guild Wars. I can be an Overwatch fan, but I can play Paladins, because they should be alternatives. They should provide me something that the other one doesn't. It makes you go, oh, I really fancy playing Paladins because it does this.
Yeah.
Or I really fancy playing Overwatch because it's got this. Not when I sit down and go, oh, so I'm playing Paladins, I've bought Overwatch, why am I playing Paladins? No idea. I can play Roadhog, which looks better on Overwatch than it does on Paladins, or whatever he's called. So, and it always leaves a sour taste in your mouth. WoW and Rift. Rift is probably the biggest example. That's the closest thing you can play to a free version of, they call it the WoW clone for that reason. So it's like, well, why don't I just play the real thing? So I really think that after watching the trailer and going back to playing Paladins, I think the devs over at Paladins missed a trick and are going to ruin the game, because now what you'll have is you'll have players go, oh, I really enjoyed this game, but I bought Overwatch, right, I'm not playing Paladins anymore. Paladins, and High Res is not a stupid studio. They have a massive MOBA underneath them that makes them millions.
Yeah, and that game. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to jump in here. This is important. They made a MOBA, and they made it their own. They did not steal the concept of their game from anybody. Their MOBA feels completely different from every other MOBA that I have played, and it is really good. It's really good. I prefer Heroes of the Storm, but I think that Smite has far better controls. And I really like what they did there.
But look at what's happened. On the back of Smite, you've got Paragon. Paragon is a 3D, a third-person MOBA.
Basically taking the idea from Smite, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Smite. So all of a sudden, with Smite, they were trendsetters, and they set the trend for this new style of MOBA. And it's not a new genre; it's a new style of MOBA. I played Smite, loved it, loved the uniqueness, I felt more immersed with Smite than I did Dota or League or Heroes. I felt like I was part of the action, and that's why I enjoyed Smite, and that's the reason why I enjoyed Paragon, because it's this third person, in your face kind of MOBA.
It plays like an MMO.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
me, that's how it handles.
So, as a trendsetter, why did they have to become the people that copy others? And that's really sad from a big studio, because they're not a stupid studio, and they know how to make a good game. And Paladins, in its early release, was a good game, and this is now going to overshadow everything that they do, because it's going to be like, oh, they were the Blizzard copyists. We're not going to play their game. We're just going to play a game by Blizzard.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, and that's that upsets me inside, because it's like the gaming industry should be about innovation. Take the ideas that you like, okay, don't copy the characters, but take them ideas and adapt them, change them, make them your own, and go forward with it and push the gaming industry forward, not just dump things in. And that to me is just It's a real sad case, and as a gamer, it upsets me.
All right. Well, let's find a way to cheer Zap up. All right. This week, we need you guys to write in, and I want you to tell us. And Zap, if you've got a better idea, shout it out. I want you guys to tell us what are your opinions on competitive gaming, aka esports, because that was kind of the theme for this week's today's show. We talked about a lot about esports and competitive gaming. So how's that sound to you, man?
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right, go ahead.
Twist on that. If you love the competitive sports scene of the game, what's your favorite esports to watch and why?
Oh, there you go. So that's what we want to hear from you guys this week. So if you want to do that, there's a couple of different ways that you can let us know. Number one, you can email the show at runjumpstomp@gmail.com, or if you would like, you can call the show. That's 260-RUN-JUMP. That's 260-786-5867. I have no clue if that will work outside of the U.S.
Do you know what we'll do? We'll test it live on stream one day. We will test to see if it actually works.
All right. So we'll have Zap call sometime, and we'll find out if it works. Anyway, if you want to support the show, one way that you can do that is with a review on iTunes or Google Play or wherever it is that you listen to the show. If you want to watch the show, I post it on YouTube, and you can also check us out at twitch.tv/RunJumpStomp. If you want to hear the tweets from me, I'm at RunJumpStomp on Twitter, and you can also find me at Twitch and YouTube at that place. Zap, where are people going to find your Space Points loving butt?
Our Space Points are great. On Twitch, it's at DJ Zap. On Twitter, it's at DJ Zap. And on YouTube, it's Django Zap.
All right. As always, thank you guys for listening. We're going to see you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.